Archaeologists have found ancient treasures in the usual places like tombs, temples, even shipwrecks. But I've got a weird one for you. Nearly 2,500 artifacts were discovered in vulture nests. Yep. These somewhat frightening birds have been harboring secrets for centuries. Welcome to the Goodish News channel. I'm Ashley, your professional pessimist. I was really banking on the rapture or an asteroid strike this week, but since we're all still here, I went looking for some news that doesn't suck. And I may have found it. So now I'm going to share it with you. Researchers have come across nearly 2,500 artifacts, some over 600 years old. And no, they didn't dig them up from ancient ruins. They found them in bird nests. Researchers studying bearded vulture nests in the mountains of southern Spain uncovered an incredible cache of medieval relics preserved for over 6 centuries. Among the items found is a 675-year-old shoe, woven from grass and perfectly preserved.
Mom always said there's an awful lot you can tell about a person by their shoes.
Bearded vultures like to nest inside dry, protected cliffs, and those same conditions have been secretly preserving artifacts all this time. Alongside the medieval footwear, researchers found decorated sheep leather, fragments of wooden lances, crossbow bolts, woven baskets, and even a slingshot made from braided grass. Basically, these nests were the medieval equivalent of a junk drawer, except instead of old batteries, it's priceless artifacts. These items give researchers a valuable glimpse into medieval life. The discovery came from excavations of 12 abandoned bearded vulture nests. And what makes these nests so special is that bearded vultures use the same nest year after year. A lot of birds build new nests each season. Bearded vultures, however, reuse the same nesting locations for hundreds of years. Each generation adds new material like bones, plants, and occasionally our old stuff. Over time, this builds a natural archaeological record, layer upon layer, like a very dirty but very fascinating cake. The stable, dry conditions inside the cliff caves preserve these layers exceptionally well. You can think of them as natural time capsules, but with a little more poop than other time capsules, but we take what we can get. Between 2008 and 2014, archaeologists and ecologists teamed up to excavate these nests, carefully removing each layer using classic archaeological methods. When they were done, they'd uncovered nearly 2,500 items. Now, most of those items were bones from the vultures' meals, but 226 of those items had clearly been made or altered by humans. Radiocarbon dating showed that many of these artifacts were created during the Middle Ages, around the 13th and 14th centuries. The woven sandal, for example, was dated to roughly 675 years ago, and the decorated sheep leather fragment was about 650 years old. Other artifacts, like basket fragments, were more recent, dating to about 150 years ago, showing that these birds were nesting in the same spots for centuries. These finds can tell us a lot about the cultures and natural environment of the time. The presence of leather, wood, grass, and metal objects tells us what materials people had access to, what technologies they used, and how humans interacted with their environment. At the same time, all the bones and biological remains help scientists understand what kinds of animals were living and being eaten in the region at different points in history. Scientists propose several reasons why bearded vultures might have brought human objects into their nests. Some items might have just been accidentally picked up along with their food, but others, like cloth or leaves, may have been intentionally used to line or insulate the nest, helping to protect eggs and chicks. These nests have basically become ecological archives, preserving clues about ancient ecosystems, human land use, and even pollution levels. For instance, scientists can analyze old eggshells to detect traces of historical pesticides. So vultures have unknowingly been keeping scientific receipts for hundreds of years. And here's something you might not hear every day, but vultures are kinda awesome. They get a bad rap for being gross, which, let's be honest, they kind of are, but they play a vital role in the ecosystem. By cleaning up animal carcasses, they prevent the spread of disease and help recycle nutrients back into the earth. Without them, we'd be dealing with way more rot, stink, and roadkill. Lots and lots of roadkill. Most scavenging birds eat the meaty portions of animal remains, but bearded vultures are unique in the fact that they primarily eat bones and bone marrow that the other species leave behind. This is an unusual specialization in birds. In fact, if a bone is too big to swallow, the vulture flies high into the air and drops it onto the rocks below to crack it open, which is honestly pretty hardcore if you ask me. Their look also matches the hardcore vibe. They've got reddish-orange plumage, often stained with iron oxide from their mud baths, giving them a rusty appearance. Add in their black chin strap, and they've got a beard that would make Abraham Lincoln jealous. Bearded vultures are usually solitary or found in pairs, and they only lay 1 or 2 eggs per year. Both parents share the parenting duties, which frankly is refreshing. Ecologically, they're critical to mountain environments, cleaning up bone remains and returning nutrients back to the soil. Unfortunately, they disappeared from parts of southern Spain about 70 to 130 years ago due to hunting and habitat loss. Today, only a few hundred pairs remain across Europe. That's part of what makes these old nests so valuable. They preserve evidence of populations that no longer exist. By studying these nests, scientists can learn everything from ancient craftsmanship to changing ecosystems, all thanks to some birds that are kind of gross, but very cool. Each nest layer is a record of both human and natural history. A messy, bone-filled history, but pretty awesome nonetheless. And now we know the past doesn't just live in the ground or in ruins. Sometimes it's sitting high up on a cliff, covered in bird poop. If you're looking for more good news in your life, be sure to check out this video right here. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing so we can ignore all the bad news together.